What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we return with Dave of Barf Bag, but this time we're going to be talking about War Orphan. Thank you for your time today, man.
Hey, dude, good to speak to you again.
Yeah, it's been a long time, like a long 2.5, 3 months, I gotta say.
I know. Yeah, a couple of things have happened.
Yeah, fair to say that. What a bizarre turn of events the world has taken. But I gotta say, the amount of interviews we do together and pump out, I like this because it works at the same pace as the way you guys produce hardcore albums. So I think it makes perfect sense.
It's so funny. We're like, if you're stuck at home, you might as well do something. So we're just always making records. It's like since you and I last spoke, the Barf Bag full length came out on Election Day, and then with War Orphan, I think the EP just came out, and then we've got another single this month, another single in January, and then a full length, and then I'm doing. I have another record coming out this month as well, which is Lords of the Drift, which is this drone doom record that I'm doing with some friends. It's Arjon from Black Mountain and Tim from Strand of Oaks and Tomo, who used to play in 30 Seconds to Mars, and we did another. It's like another one of these like COVID records where we all like everyone's in a different city, but we just we recorded at home, and then on that one, Arjon mixed it and did a video for it. And it's just,
you need to start a band where every member's on a different continent.
Oh, that's the dream.
Yeah, like
we have like escape plans for whatever goes wrong in everyone's continent.
Yeah, exactly. But with Closer to Death Than Life, I mean, was there, being that it's very raw and very organic and very hardcore, like was there maybe a similar mindset or a similar creative process of what you've done with Barf Bag, or is there still like a lot of differences that made this creative process different?
It's the same process in that I'm on the West Coast and the War Orphan guys are in New York, but it's a different set of people and a different relationship. When I moved to New York, these were the very first friends I ever met, and they've been lifelong friends. And because they come from the New York hardcore scene, they approach it a certain way, which I love. So Richie was in Sick of It All. Dante, the drummer, played in a band I loved called Ouija Pig, and he played in a band called Reach with Richie. So they've been playing together forever, but it's tougher. It's more hardcore. It's thicker. The Barf Bag stuff is more kind of like 80s skate punk. We grew up on Suicidal and just Aggression and all those great skate punk bands. But with War Orphan, for me it's more a nod to the other stuff I love, which is like the New York hardcore stuff. That's
exactly what I thought of when I heard War Orphan, because I thought that I was like, man, they're taking inspiration from Cro-Mags, Sick of It All, Agnostic Front. I see some Minor Threat incorporated in there,
and Bad Brains too.
Of course,
there's a lot of sort of like Bad Brain breaks in there.
Mm-hmm. So being
on a dime.
Being that this record was so organic and so raw, were you at all revolving around a preconceived idea of what you wanted this record to at least be about, or like what you were trying to address in it, or was there kind of like a lot of trial and error for the Closer to Death Than Life?
No, it's what would happen is, so War Orphan came about because I would call Richie, and so you know how hardcore kids, they're either they come from punk rock or they come from metal?
Yeah.
And I come very firmly from the punk rock world, and Richie was a bit of a metalhead. So I would leave him these voicemails telling him how stupid all these like heavy metal bands that he likes are, and then he would record like metal riffs and put my voicemail over top of them and send them back to me, and we were just trying to make each other laugh. And then when COVID hit, he was like, "Listen, you know, like I got a couple songs that are like actually, you know, pretty fucking good. Like, do you want to really do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So the way it happens is Richie records guitar and bass at home to programmed drums, and then he takes them up to Yonkers, and Dante plays to that. Then they send me the sessions. I do vocals. We all agree on it, and the mixer mixes them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's oh gosh, I've forgotten the question now.
You answered it.
Thing?
No,
okay.
You answered it.
Okay. But yeah, that's the process. It's pretty much the same. Well, I mean, Barf Bag we all did in a room together because we're all in LA, but that's the way the War Orphan thing has been done because I'm stuck here on the West Coast and I can't get out there.
Yeah, we're all stuck. Do you think that being that this is an EP, this could serve as like a clear representation on maybe like what War Orphan will do in the future, or maybe in future endeavors with this project you might experiment a little bit further?
No, it's pretty much all in that vein. You know, it's like we have. So let's say there were 5 songs on the EP. We've got 3 more coming. No, this full length will be pretty much what you hear on the EP.
Okay, so it's just going to be straight up hardcore all the way through.
Straight up hardcore all the way through.
So what I wanted to ask you is because because we dove deep into the rabbit hole of hardcore the last interview, and we're going to dive even deeper this time. Do you think that hardcore has any room for experimentation? Like, you know, I was listening to Walls of Jericho earlier this morning, one of my favorite hardcore bands, and you know, they have like some acoustic outros in it, even some more melodic vocals incorporated in there. Do you think that there is room for experimentation in hardcore, or do you think that it kind of like has to be what I call like the dry cleaners, same every time, just as good of a service?
I think that's really limiting, and it's not like if you're looking backwards at hardcore, you're going to end up with the same thing every time, you know? But the people who made those landmark hardcore records, like the ones that, you know, that we like, you know, like Age of Quarrel didn't sound like anything when it came out, you know? And I just feel like, yeah, of course there's room for, like, hardcore can be whatever a hardcore kid wants to make. And if, you know, whether or not the hardcore community gets behind it, like, who fucking cares, you know? Like, how did the shape of Punk to Come become a hardcore classic when it sounded nothing like a hardcore record when it came out?
Yeah, especially nowadays, you see Code Orange and, you know, Harm's Way and Twitching Tongues like being referred to as a hardcore band. And I mean, you know, they don't. I would say that it has a similar aesthetic in terms of a live presence that from what you would get from old school bands. But like hardcore is becoming so vague, I would say, and I mean it as a good thing. But like it's like, is it about the music now, or is it about the image? Is it just about the shows? Like it just seems like
that image, we're fucked.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, I got a COVID afro, and you know,
and that's going to be representative. That's going to be representative of the times. Back in the early days, if you were in a hardcore band, you had like the scars from like all the bullshit that was happening in the 80s and 90s. This time, rather than being Earth Crisis preaching a straight edge and vegan, we're going to be preaching masks and social distancing with COVID afros. That's the new look for hardcore.
Yep. I mean, to me, I don't know. I just feel like I hear a lot of variants, even in like the classic canon of the hardcore, you know, records that are out there. And the one thing that's always sort of brought it all together for me was more lyrical content than, you know, what tuning are you in and how, you know, how slow is your fucking break, you know? Like, I just, what attracted to me as to hardcore as a kid was like all these bands talking about like, oh yeah, these are my brothers, these are my friends, this is this is our life, this is what we do. You got to stand up for what you think is right. And like across all these hardcore records, that was the message, you know. And like, whereas, you know, punk rock was always railing against a system, hardcore always felt to me like it was about taking care of your community and you know, being stand up guys. And that's what I love about being in War Orphan, is that these are like my best friends. These are like the first friends I made in, you know, in New York when I moved there, and we've been lifelong buddies. And whether we're in a band or not, we talk on the phone. And if one of them has a problem, we're there for them. And that's kind of that to me is like what attracted me to hardcore in the first place.
Camaraderie.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, and that's that to me is the best thing about hardcore. Is like, I've always said that everybody in the hardcore scene are rough, tough cream puffs. That's what we are.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But being that you write songs, you know, like from analyzing the lyrics from War Orphan, I mean, when you look at, you know, Prop Up the Polls and Identity Politics and the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, like, I feel like, you know, they are strong political statements. But do you feel that, like, with writing hardcore music, is there ever any vestige of your personal experiences or maybe personal trials and tribulations that you also address in your music?
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, you know, I think your job as a musician is to look at what's going on around you and putting it through your worldview and having an opinion. And we happen to be living through a turbulent time, so what's coming out of me at this point is all this, you know, fury. But I also, like, the funny thing is, like, those lyrics are going to have a shelf life. It's a snapshot in time. We're not always going to be in the middle of, you know, of what we're going through right now. Next year is going to be a different thing, and the year after that is going to be a different thing. And as long as you keep having output and you keep taking snapshots of the time that you live in, it's a, you know, it's you know, you stay current. But I've also, to answer your question, yeah, I've specifically on the back end of this record, because, you know, we're releasing another few singles and then the full length, but I've still got to do some vocals on I think two or three more songs I got to finish up. But I've made a conscious decision on those to start talking more about the band, talking more about, you know, this is what we do, this is, you know, and like not everything completely centered on, you know, corrupt politicians. but again, that's me bringing my, you know, it's me bringing my punk rock background to a hardcore band. You know, like I'm still trained to focus on current issues, but I have made a conscious decision to talk about, like, you know, we have a song that just came out called Anthem, and it's, you know, there are, of course, there are political issues in there, but it's also talking about, like, what happens when you run into the three of us in New York.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely. Definitely. And like I've always thought that that was the beautiful thing about hardcore music is that it's almost kind of like a sonic photograph, as in like it captures a moment in time. That's why it's quick and to the point and wastes no time. I feel like maybe like the more you have to interpret it, or the more like or the longer it goes on, or like the more you even that you have to explain it, the less it kind of loses that hardcore momentum in a way.
Yep. Yeah.
So at what point, because I mean, even though that this record is pretty quick and to the point, this EP, like, do you have to like hit a certain threshold to know when it's done, like you did with Barf Bag? Because Autonomous Zone is 3.5 minutes long, but then you have Tiny Dick March that's just over a minute long. So at what point are you satisfied and feel like you said your message?
Well, the funny thing is, I just work within the frame of what Dante and Richie send me.
Oh wow!
So they send me finished songs, and then I take my lyrics and I make them fit the song. So with Tiny Dick March, like that was a pretty short and sweet one. So I knew there wasn't, and it's probably a good thing that there wasn't too much of a chance to be verbose and fit too many words in. But I just thought like, oh, this one will be like a mantra. Let me just say the same thing over and over and over again until it's done. And, you know, hopefully by the end of the song that's cathartic. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Who knows? And at last, before we go, is there just anything else that you would like to promote for War Orphan in terms of like more maybe some live stream performances or new merch, or when could we be expecting the full length?
There's merch up on Bandcamp. Actually, it's Richie airbrushes shirts, so you can get a shirt airbrushed by Richie if you want. But we just did Drew Stone's New York Hardcore Chronicles.
Shout out to Drew Stone.
Yeah, I love that guy, dude. But we just did that on Sunday, and we sort of talked about when things open up again, we'll go do a A7 matinee with him and our buddy Jesse Mallon over at Niagara.
Before the world ended, I saw Maximum Penalty there.
Awesome. Yeah.
Dude, that was like, it felt like I entered a time machine, and I was like...
How many people did cram in there?
Oh, I'm not even exaggerating. There was at least maybe 200-300 people.
Oh my God.
Dude, and I was standing on the bench because they had like a bench over the main floor, and somebody backfisted me right in the Johnny Cash's, and aside from that, the show was fucking amazing.
Love it.
So,
yeah.
But thank you.
That plaque they have on the wall in there, every time I go in there, I just stare at it.
I know, I'm always worried that shit's just gonna fly off the wall and like, fucking decapitate somebody. But thank you so much, Dave. Everybody, we are here with...
Great to talk to you again, man. Thank you for having us.
Anytime. Thank you. Everybody, Dave of War Orphan and Barf Bag. Be sure to check out the Closer to Death Than Life EP. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.